Okay, it should start recording. Okay, perfect.
Do I need to? Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I appreciate you all being here. Please bear with me. I'm a little nervous. This is my first class, let alone first Zoom. So I will appreciate constructive criticism at the end. So, oh wait, Anita.
I'm going to stay on, Miss Tonda, so as people come in, I'll admit them for you so you can focus on your class.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so leases. I will not consider myself an expert on this, but I started in January and I was blessed with clients who allowed me to handle their leases. And so I've become very familiar, but by no means am I an expert. So please feel free, my seasoned agents, to correct me if I say something that is not quite right. Okay, so the first step in the process is to get your customer information form. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with that, given the fact that that is the first step in each transaction that we do. So once we, hold on, let me change the screen right here so you can see what I'm talking about up close and personal, just in case you haven't seen one before. So this is the customer information form, and then basically what it does is it gives your clients or tells them what your job as their realtor is. It explains agency, designated agency, dual agency. Like I said, I'm sure most of you have seen this, so I'm not going to bore you with going through every line, but just make sure that you get your customer to sign or your client to sign by their title. They'll be the lessee, and then the licensee is you, and then the date.
Tonda, it's not showing up.
It's
It's
not.
just,
Oh, I'm
it's
sorry.
just showing the file, the list of files.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back.
Double click on it.
Double click on the. Oh wait, I think I see it now. Okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
That's better. Y'all can see it now. Is that better? Okay. Okay, so like I was saying, it explains agency, designated agency, dual agency, talks about the confidentiality that you have to have with your client, what you're obligated to with them. Make sure your client signs here, their title, they're the lessee, because we are talking about leases. The date, the licensee is you, and then the date that you sign. What I do is when I send it through DocuSign, you can kind of just, populate some of this stuff. So just insert the date signed for each. Let me go back to this. Okay, after that is the authorization to lease. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, can y'all see the authorization to lease or rent form?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So on this form, this is them giving you permission to lease their to list their property as a lease or a rental. So up here, you're going to put obviously New Orleans, Louisiana, the date, the property's address goes in this line right here. The period, most are at least 12 months. Some people allow less. So this, in this space right here is where you would put that. The length of the lease, how much they're going to charge per month. In this section, This right here says how long you're going to be given the opportunity to list this property. Usually 6 months. I have clients who only wanted to do 3. You know, it's no big deal because you're going to try your best anyway to try to get it leased as quickly as possible. This next paragraph is where you put your commission price. So the owner agrees to pay the agent a commission of what percentage of the first month's rent payable when the lease has been executed. For me, I've been blessed to be able to get 100%. I think the standard is usually around 60, but again, that's negotiable. Just between you and your client. If you get any pushback, then I would just say, you know, be flexible, but also know that, you know, doing rentals is quite a bit of work for not as much money as a sale or a buy, but, you know, that's on you. Right here, it says the agent will offer, and this is where you put what percentage of the commission you're going to give to another agent. Generally, for me, I give 30%. Usually it's half of whatever you are going to charge your client for the commission. Any additional terms will go in this space. Your owner will print right here and sign right here and date. And then their address goes in this line, their phone number. Here is where compliance, Jeanette's signature will go. The acceptance date, when this contract expires, and then you are the designated agent. Any questions on that portion? Or on that form?
What do you typically put under additional terms?
I haven't had to put anything under additional terms yet. So, like, what do you usually put in that? Or what would you say would be appropriate to be in that portion? Nicole.
I haven't used it, but I mean, go ahead, Benita.
I was gonna say you can put things like no pets, no smoking.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Everything's going crazy. TV's going on. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No pets, no smoking. Any terms that are important to your seller.
Okay.
What were you gonna say, Nicole? Nicole?
I'm sorry, I had it on mute. I was just saying that there was something that stood out when you do the criteria piece that you want to, you know, highlight, and similar to what Benita said. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any questions on that portion or on that form? Okay. After the authorization to lease is the owner criteria forms. There are a couple of sheets. So this one, no, I'm sorry. Okay. Can you all see that? Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So the owner criteria form is where your clients will outline what they expect as far as their property. So the subject property is going to be the address, authorization to lease agreement, the date that they're filling this out. This paragraph right here, since this is a lease, we're not talking about property management, this will need to be checked. You go a little further down, monthly rent, what they're going to charge per month, when it's going to be due. Usually it's the first of the month. Some people give, you know, a couple of days grace period. So sometimes you can put by the third of the month. Some people give incentives to pay early on the lease. I haven't seen that personally, but if your owner is going to discount, for lack of a better word, the monthly rental amount, if they pay by the first, then this right here is where that information would go. If they're going to accept checks, you put who the client or the lessee is going to make the checks out to, where it's going to be delivered to, whether they're going to accept it by mail or hand delivery. NSF, insufficient funds, if for whatever reason the check is returned, how much they're going to charge right there. The security deposit, in my experience, normally the security deposit is equal to 1 month's rent, but I have seen instances where it is a little less. It just depends on your client. Notice of termination of lease. You put right here how many days prior to the termination you're going to give them, or your client is going to give them. The occupants, right here, you put the number of bedrooms in the property. Generally, the rule of thumb is that 2 people per bedroom are allowed. Right here, you put the number of occupants that your client is going to allow in the property. Qualification income, income qualifications. This is where your client is going to say if somebody applies for the property that he or she or they must make at least 25%, 30%, 35%. My clients generally like for somebody to make at least 3 times what the rental rate is. Who qualifies? If there's more than 1 lessee who will be signing the lease, the owner requires that all lessees qualify either together. So that just means that their income combined, if it equals to what their qualifications are, they'll accept it. Or sometimes clients want that an individual to make that amount on his or her own. The type of income the owner does or does not require that the income used to qualify a lessee be earned income. And then again, they explain earned income and other income. The resident or non-resident lessees, who's going to sign the lease. All lessees who sign the lease must or are not required to reside in the property. And in that instance, usually I've had where like college students get a parent to be a guarantor of their property. So that is where your owner will let you know whether or not they're going to accept that. Always make sure you get your owners to initial each page. The second page is the owner's criteria. The subject property, the address again goes there. Guarantor, that's just somebody who is going to sign on to say that if the person who is residing there is not able to pay, this person guarantees that he or she will pay on their behalf. Again, your clients must say whether or not they're going to be accepting of that. Subleasing, whether or not your clients are going to allow the tenants to sublease. Utilities, they outline who's going to pay what in this line. And then this information I forgot to mention is just going to help you when you get ready to input information into the MLS, as well as when you're showing the property. Lawn maintenance, who's going to be responsible for that. Pool, if it has a pool, the number of automobiles. Again, I don't want to go through line by line, but basically it just outlines what your client's requirements are for their property and enables you to be able to answer any questions that potential tenants may have when they're coming to view the property. At the bottom, it's important to make sure that your client signs and dates. Right here in this portion is where Jeanette's signature via Joyce will go with the date, and then the listing agent is you, obviously. Does anybody have any questions on the owner's criteria? The next step in the process is the pre-approved renter. The information for preapprovedrenter.com, you can get it from Jody if you don't already have it, but when you log in, it simply gives the application for the property. So once you have somebody who wants to move in, and they want to apply, you can send them the link to preapprovedrenter.com. And what it does is it provides your client with a criminal background check. It gives a credit report. It gives rental history, and it gives employment history, all in one. So once the potential tenant fills everything out, you'll get an alert on your via email, because it is linked directly to your email. You'll get an alert saying that you got an application. Once you get that, you're able to view the reports. For me, what I do is my clients ask me to verify their employment, verify their rental history. So I'll call, not everybody does this, it just depends. And I strongly believe that my clients have me do this because I do get 100% commission for 1 month for rent. So they're gonna make me earn my money. But I call to verify their rental history. So I'll talk to their current landlord. It'll give you their previous landlord. My clients ask me to contact them. They have to download their pay stubs, so you can verify that they make what it is they say they make. Again, it gives a credit history. More and more now I'm seeing clients who are looking at the rental history because they want to know, do you pay on time? It gives a criminal background check as well. So any criminal history that you may have will show up on that report. I think that's it for that part. And again, not all clients require you to go through all of that, but mine do. And then you can forward them the link or the little zip that comes with it, so that they can look over the reports if that's something that they want to do. And some do. So that is the pre-approved rental has been very convenient for me, because not only will you can kind of pre-screen, it has like a pre-application process. So if you want to look at the surface for somebody and just kind of tell whether or not you think that they might be a good fit based on like one of their bank statements or that kind of thing, you can, or you can send them the full link where they have to pay the $39.95 to generate the reports. And then also with that is if they enter their credit card information or whatever, it'll let you know whether or not the report is running immediately, or I've had instances where for whatever reason the credit card, did not work. Does anybody have any questions on the pre-approved renter site?
Tonda, do you have a form, or do you have certain questions that you ask to verify both employment and rental history when you call previous landlord? Do you have specific, like a check form or anything, or you're just basing it on what's in the application?
When I first started off, it was just based on the application. But what I did do, because a lot of them have had, like the current resident or the prior residence is an apartment. And so apartments generally, they won't give you that information over the phone. So they require you to submit a form. So I did create a form that I send to the applicant first, so that he or she can sign, giving me the authority to receive the information from the apartment complex, or if there is a private renter that wants that information, that I have it up front and then I can email it to them. In most instances, it is just the apartment complexes that will not give that information over the phone, but private renters, I have had them answer the information right away with me just calling and identifying myself as a realtor. But some of them have wanted to speak to the applicant first. And so generally what I tell them is, okay, please inform your current landlord, your previous landlord, or your employer that I will be calling. And that makes the process run a little smoother, because I can't I don't forward the information to my clients until I have gone through and verified like their current tenant and then their employment.
Would you mind sharing those forms with the group? So that
You want me to share them now, or you
no,
want?
no, later, just
Yeah,
so that.
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't have a problem in that at all. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay.
I do have one before. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
So you, for the most part, you don't have them fill out. They don't pay the $39 until you've actually screened them first, or do you make everybody just pay for the 39? Because I've done it both ways, so I just wanted to know your opinion.
What I do is, like, when they come in to look at the property, I talk to them and kind of gauge them and just kind of ask questions that kind of give me feedback. So, we kind of talk about their job. Well, what do you do? And they'll tell you. And I let them know that my client's criteria is to make at least 3 times what the rental rate is. And so if they say, okay, that's no problem, then we kind of get into where they work. So you just kind of learn as you go to ask certain questions up front, but you can also, it goes back to that, the pre-application and the pre-approved renter. Like, it'll ask them for one pay stub. I can't remember exactly what else, because I've only used it a couple times. But there are a few things on that pre-application that will kind of let you know whether or not they could potentially be a good client, in which case then send them the link where it's charged. I don't like to charge people unnecessarily, so I kind of make sure they know what my client's criteria is, so that if for whatever reason they are declined, and I've had that happen, they can't be mad at me for them wasting $40 on, applying. So it just depends. Did that answer your question, Nicole?
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else?
So Tonda, do you do a virtual setup or meeting between the landlord and the potential tenant for the landlord to do like a quick interview with that potential applicant?
I have not. For the most part, my my clients have trained me to kind of screen. In a couple instances, they'll call them themselves to just to ask a question or two or get a feel for them. But let me knock on wood, I have done okay in kind of placing tenants with them.
Okay.
I've done it on Zoom, Kim.
Yeah.
Introduced my seller to the tenants on Zoom just to make her feel, she felt a lot more comfortable after she had met them and talked to them. They had their little baby on Zoom. So it was a way for both of them to feel comfortable.
Right.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. That is a good idea, especially now. And then I think too
Yeah.
that will kind of take the burden off of you, as opposed to you being
Right.
you selected this person.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
That's exactly right.
That
Yes.
leaves the final decision in their laps.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think I might incorporate that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I do that. I make sure I'm not the person that's making the decision on who they decide to, the landlord decides to lease their property to. I set up a virtual and they get to meet each other, and the landlord gets to ask questions as long as it's ethical and, it's the right questions to ask. Of course, that's rehearsed. And then, they make the decision. And so I find that, it works really well because it's, for the most part, and praise the Lord that they've been very satisfied with the tenants that they lease their properties to. And it just cuts down on, unnecessary tension that can arise from somewhere in the process of the lease agreement. It works. It finally works. Mm-hmm.
It makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I think I will definitely incorporate that, because I would like to get that off of me, and let it be their responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then I forgot to mention also, on the pre-approved renter, it also asks them for a copy of their ID. So, that helps as well. So that the person that's applying is actually who they say they are. Okay, so after that comes the actual lease. Let's see. Can you all see the lease now?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So the lease, in my experience, I have clients who have drafted their own lease, which is perfectly fine. They are well within their right to do that. It made it easier for me. But if you have to provide a lease, we do have a residential lease. Um, Again, I will not go step by step, line by line in this, because I know a lot of you have seen this before, but I am definitely willing to go over it individually if anybody would like. But generally, you have to put the date, who the parties are. That means your client, the owner or the landlord, and the tenant, address of the property, the lease term, how long it's going to last, the beginning date, end date, if for whatever reason they have to go month to month. Right here is where you write out the rental amount so that there is no confusion as to the amount that the person is paying, the security deposit, who's going to occupy the property right here. Again, make sure your client initials under lessor, the tenant initials under lessee. Second page, it just goes further into whether or not they're going to allow pets, subleasing, outlines violations, their rules and regulations. Again, you have to make sure that your client and the tenant initial each page. At the top, you must put the address again, just to make sure that we understand which property you're talking about. Special conditions, like Bonita and Nicole said earlier, whether or not they're going to allow pets. I have clients who don't want them to hang clothes outside on the balcony. So it just a matter of your client, that's individual. Lead-based paint, asbestos. If the property was built before 1978, you must include the lead-based paint form in that. And right here, your client must state whether or not the property was built before 1978 or after, or if it's unknown. Right here, make sure the applicant or the tenant initials, your client initials. The same with mold. Right here, sex offender and child predator registry note. You don't have to go into that. This just their initials here, the applicant's initials here. Just let us know that they've been given the information, and what if they choose to look further into that, then that is on them. We just provide them with the information. Right here is where the tenant signs and dates. If there's more than one tenant, they sign and date there. Your client, the owner or the landlord, signs and dates here. The agent is you. The company is Keller Williams. Phone number and the agent ID. Are there any questions on that, on the lease?
Just like eating cold pizza. Best meal ever.
Okay.
I don't know about this.
Tanda, I do have a question. Can you go back to the first page?
The first page of the lease?
Yes.
Yeah. Hold on.
So since most of your clients have their own lease, the section, I guess it's I guess line 21, when it's a net, because this particular lease is made up like a net lease. On have you used this one, or you use the one that your client uses? Have you used this one yet?
No, my clients, they draft their own. And then the other instances where I worked with somebody that I was on the lessee side.
Okay. So some, and this is how I've done it in the past. So on line 16 would be the actual, the net amount. And because on line 21, it basically says if or a net rental amount of that amount. So that's when, on the criteria, it had a statement, if it's paid before a certain amount, a certain date, that they would get a discount. This is where that comes to play on, it transfers from that criteria to this section. So I just wanted people to know, because the criteria is based like on a net lease as well. So it's just, you would take that information from the criteria and put it in this section, depending on what the owner wants to do.
Okay. Okay. So on the owner criteria, if they say that they're going to give a discount if they pay it on the first as opposed to
No.
the third, is that
So
what?
basically, it's like a grace period. So if they pay by, say, the 5th, that they would give them a discount, say, of $100. So say the rent was $1,300, and as long as they paid by the 5th, the $1,300 would be okay. But say if it didn't, the rental amount would be $1,400, an extra $100, because it would be deducted if they didn't pay by the 5th, then that extra $100 comes to play. So that's where the discount comes, if they have a grace period. But if they have to pay by the 1st, then it's a late fee. But if they give them a grace period, then they pay the actual rental amount. You kind of get it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Everybody else understand that? Any other questions?
They called me
Uh-huh.
saying that the attorney said I am responsible for the credit balance because I said I don't do the case.
That's
I'm
true.
like, no, you told me that they're gonna write it up. Understand?
Can you
That's
mute
what-
her, Tonda?
I am trying to figure out.
I think Nicole may, whoever's the host.
No,
Look, you're gonna
Okay,
I don't know how to mute an individual person.
she's muted.
Okay. Okay. Well, okay, let me go back to my other screen real quick. Okay, so we have the lease. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we have the lease signed. The next step is the deposit check. Can y'all see that? Okay. So the deposit check naturally is made out. Well, now answer me this, because I always just get it made out to my client, and then my client in return pays me in a separate check. But I've seen where some agents get the deposit checks paid to Keller Williams. They get their money, and then a check is then cut to the owner. Is that correct?
So what I usually do is the deposit check itself is made out to the owner. The rent is, you could do it one or two ways. The rent is, I split it based on what the commission is. So for instance, if it's 100%, of course, it's going to go to Keller Williams. But if it's a 60-40 split, I mean, the 40%, they'll do basically three checks. 40% would go to the owner, and then the 60% would go to Keller Williams. So they're making out pretty much three checks, or three money orders, or three cashier's checks, whatever that is. Or you could do two checks with the deposit and with the portion that goes to the owner in one. So it just depends, but I always separate the amount that's going to Keller Williams, and I don't have the owner pay me. I have the actual, whoever's releasing it, pay Keller Williams.
Okay. Okay.
That way it's cleaner to me, because then if you won't be waiting for the owner to then send you a check. So I just separate it and make it cleaner.
Have you ever gotten any pushback on that?
Absolutely not.
No? Okay.
I do typically the same thing. I have them give the lessor or your client the security deposit and 40%, and then write a separate check for our commission made payable to Keller Williams.
I can see where that would be a lot cleaner than waiting on your owner, because I have had, to wait before a little while, but okay. So then after that, naturally, is the green sheet. I am not going to pretend like I am the green sheet expert. It seems like just about every time I have to fill it out, I have to ask questions, but in case any of you have never seen one, this is like the very first portion of the green sheet. And this is how we get paid ultimately. And that's the last step. Any questions? No questions?
So another question. So for newer agents, do you have like a lease kind of filled out and maybe white out the name so that they can use as a reference as well?
Do that. I don't have a problem in doing that. I will do
Like
that.
like the whole packet so that they'll have a reference point. Just white out your name, the names of everybody so that that way they can use it as a reference.
Okay, that's a good idea. I will do that. And then any blank forms that you need are in the Google Drive. But I will give you like a sample copy just so that you can know what goes where on each of the forms. So if everybody would just make sure that I have their email addresses, because I cannot see everybody that's on the call. I know my seasoned agents don't need that, but the other ones, I will absolutely do that.
You can just add it to the Google Drive as sample forms for leases. That way, if anybody who missed it. Huh?
Okay. Technology is not my thing, but
just have Jody do it. Just have Jody and Nicole add it.
Okay. That's more my speed.
Yeah, if you let me know what you need, Miss Tonda, I can get it done for you.
Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome. No problem.
Okay, y'all. Well, I appreciate you all logging in and jumping on. I will appreciate constructive criticism as well. Please let me know what I can improve upon.
You did an awesome job, Miss Tonda.
Great job, Tonda. Thank you.
Thank you all. Y'all have a good day and be safe. Be safe. Prepare for Sally.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tonda. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tonda.
Yes.